very brief history of Python programming. The Python was conceived by late 1918, or exactly if it is by 1989, by a person called a scientist or a developer called Guido van Rossum in 1989 at CW Research Institute, Netherlands. So he was a Dutch developer. And there are why the name Python? Why the name Python? Why the mysterious name Python? So at that time, he was reading published scripts of a BBC comedy series called Monty Python Flying Circus. So he thought he needed a name that is very short, unique, and slightly mysterious. So he decided to call the language Python. The design philosophy of Python is based on the very important design philosophies. There are two points. One is the code readability and the smooth learning curve. The code readability means it means a readable code is that code which clearly communicate its intention to the reader. So if a program is written by us, it should be clearly understood by any other programmer. So that was the aim. So the primary philosophy is on the code readability. The program that written by us should be able to understand the logic. Everything should be understood by any other program. That was the primary objective. The second one is the aspect is simplicity. So you'll be able to learn the programming language very quickly, or we can call it as the programming language as a very smooth learning curve. So the Python program is clean, consistent, and concise. So these are some of the features of Python. So it's an interpreter language. This is not an advantage. So we can call this advantage. Python is an interpreter language. So when you so we'll see what that is, interpreter language. So this means that when you write a program, the instructions are executed line by line. So first line is taken, it is converted into what we call a machine language, then it is executed. So that is interpreter language. In contrast, the C programming is different. It is not interpreter language. It is a compiled language. The whole program is taken. It is translated into the machine language. The computer can only understand. So we are learning what is called a high-level language that we can understand. So in order to execute that in a computer, we have to translate that program into a low-level language, or it's called a machine language. Level means which is with the close to human or close to the machine. So it's interpreter language, and it's a free and open source language. You need to pay for it. So it's freely available on an official website. You can download it. You can develop the program, and it's an easy language, easy for beginners, easy to understand. It's a straightforward syntax. The syntax is very simple. It's English-like syntax. You can when go through the programming, a program you can understand. So that is code readability. So it is the program. The Python has its own ingredients to support the code readability. It is portable, so that means if you write a program for a particular hardware or a software, if you write a program in Windows, that is Windows OS, then the program will run without any problem in Ubuntu or any Linux or any other OS. So it's portable. It's hardware configurations. It is independent of hardware or software configurations. It is object-oriented language. We know what that is. So you learn about object-oriented language, what is object-oriented programming, etc. It is extendable. That means it can interface, or it can incorporate other programming language. Programs written in other programming languages can incorporate in your Python program. So it has gone interface to C programming, C++ programming, etc. Scalable, that means you can write a very small to very large, very complex program that supports a machine learning that requires a very complex program. If you want to write a real application which is having a machine learning, then you have to that program you can write in a Python. It's having scalability. And one of the important feature is rich set of libraries. You have very rich set, wide Python libraries available for functions and modules. What you have to do is you just understand what are the possible, what are the libraries offer. Just use that. No need to write very complex program. You can have a rich set of libraries. That is a very important feature of the Python. And coming to the limitations, you should understand what are the limitations. Speed. It is because it is interpreter language. So it is interpreter language. So the speed is compared to C and C++. The speed is slower than C and C++. It is not good for mobile development. We call this mobile. If you want to run your program on a mobile device, Python is not a good choice. And memory consumption. So Python is not, if you have a memory intensive program, if you want to develop a memory intensive program, the Python is not a good choice. But Python has something called and the recent version has something called a garbage collector, so which manage memory in a better way. And this is one of the very annoying issues, that is backward compatibility. That means there are two versions of the Python. So you should understand what are the versions available. Python 2.x and Python 3.x. So 2.x and 3.x. So these are the versions. There are two major versions, 2.x and 3.x. So most of the libraries are developed in Python 2.x. And the recent version is Python, I think 3.8, Python 3. We'll see the versions 3.8. The problem is that if you write a program that is, if you write a program in 2.x, it's not guaranteed that the program will run on a Python or Python 3. Python 3 called as a Python 3, but this is Python 2. Python 2.x called as a Python 2, and this is Python 3. So if you write a program in Python 2, it is not guaranteed that that program will run without any issue on Python 3. And that is a backward compatibility issues. So when you start writing the program, you will face that issues. So the new version is not backward compatible. So most of the libraries are written in Python 2. So in order to run that libraries on 3, you have to use some. You will face some problems when you run the libraries on Python 3. So how to run a Python program? How to launch a Python interactive terminal? So for that, what you have to do is, I hope you can see my desktop. So I'm using a Ubuntu machine. The same thing you can done. You can done on a Windows computer. So this is, I have taken something called a terminal. We call it as a terminal, interactive terminal, where you can type operating system commands. So you can see a blinking cursor here, a blinking cursor that shows this operating system is ready to accept the commands. So I'm to launch Python interpreter. What you have to do is you have to type Python on the screen. Python, just press enter. You can see that my Python version is displayed here. It is Python 2.7 or Python 2. We call it as a Python 2. This is Python 2.7. It's Python 2. This is a Python 2 version, and I can see 3 greater than symbols. That means this symbol means Python is ready to, Python interpreter is ready to accept the commands. So interpreter means it will be translate your high level language, that is Python language, into machine language line by line. Okay. So if you want to launch Python 3, so you have to use a different command, Python 3. You can type Python 3. So this will launch Python 3. So my Python 3 version is Python 3.9. You can see that Python 3.9. Okay. So this is Python interactive terminal. So when you can write Python statements here, and it will get immediately executed. For example, so if I am typing a equal to 5, that means I'm creating a what you call a variable. We'll come to that. What is a variable is called a variable. So we are creating a variable. So called as a variable, which can hold. Variable means can hold any value. You can hold any value. You can change the value at any point. So that's a variable. or simply this indicates a memory location. So we have a computer memory, my computer have a memory, and this refers to some location. So where we store the value. So value is 5. The value is 5. We have stored the value 5. So this is called a variable. So when you type a equal to 5, that statement will be immediately executed. That is why it's called an interpreter. So you can type another value for another variable. I'm introducing another variable b equal to 10. So that will be immediately executed. If there is an error, you display that error on that screen. So I'm introducing another variable c equal to a plus b, so that the value of a and b is taken, and that a and b is taken, and that is operated by a addition. So it is added together, and that value is stored in the variable called c. Okay. So I'm trying to display that. For that display, you can use an output statement which outputs the value of any variable. So I'm using a print statement, print c. That means the value of c is printed on the screen. So you can see that this is called interpreter. So so what you have to do is you have to type the program by line, and it will be executed and line by line. So that's why I call an interpreter. So in contrast to C program, you have to write the entire program. That means that you have to use a compiler, something called a compiler. So compiler will give you something called an executable file, and the executable file you have to load and run. That's a usual way if you're using a C programming. And Python uses interpret. And if I try to create an error, suppose I'm creating an error. Suppose I'm trying to display a variable which does not exist. So print t. That means d is not a variable. So you can see that immediately there is an error. So name error, d is not defined. So this is about Python interactive terminal. Any questions at this point? Any questions? So if you want to run a Python terminal, there is an Python terminal available on internet. You can go to this address, python.org shell, if you want to run Python terminal. So you can go to this website. So the same terminal you can get it, but the version is 3.8. 3.8. You can type Python commands here: a equal to 3, b equal to 5, c equal to a plus b, print c. So you can see that the output is displayed. The result is 5 plus 8 is equal to 8. Okay. And there is another way of developing Python program. So that's called a Python script. We'll create something called a Python script. To create a Python script, you have to create a file, something called a Python file. Then you can create using a appropriate. You can create a folder. So I'm creating a folder. So this is my Python programs. So I'm creating a folder. Inside that, you can create a file. You can use any editor. So I'm using editor. So I can launch editor from here. Okay. So my editor is gedit. You can use, if you are using a Windows, you can use Notepad, etc. So to create a Python file, what you have to do is you have to use a proper extension. So my Python file is, suppose I'm creating a file called pg1.c. pg1.c. That's my file name. pg1.c. pg1.c. Okay. Program one. Why I have named pg1 because it's program one dot. It's not C. Sorry, it's not C. pg1.python. So this is a Python file. So you have to name it as pg1.py. So you can see the last characters after dot is called a file extension. We call it as a file extension. That indicates the type of the file, which file is it. Py means it's a Python script. We call it as a Python program or a Python script. So you can use any editor. So my editor is gedit. So I'm creating a file. You can see that the file is created here in this directory. The file is created, and you can see I have to save the file. Okay, so I'm typing the same statements here. That is a equal to 5, b equal to 3, c equal to a plus b, print c. I'm writing the same statements here also, the same statements. We can execute this program. This is called a Python script. So you can see that a file is created here. This is called a Python script, pg1.py. pg1.py. That file is created. You can see that there is an icon. There is a change of file icon. That means this indicates that this is the icon of Python. So this is a Python script. We call it as a Python script. You can execute this also as a program. So in order to execute that, what you have to do is you have to type like this. So go make sure that your file is there. So my file is there, pg1.py, it's there. You can type Python, then the script name, pg1.py. So this is another way of executing Python script. You can one way is you can take the Python interactive terminal, and you can execute the program line by line. Another way is you can create a script. This is called a Python script. We call it as a Python script, and you can execute by launching the Python interpreter. So this Python, how do you launch the Python interpreter? Python, then you have to the script file name. Script name is pg1.py. So pg1.py. So py means it's a Python file. So when I try to execute that, you can see the result is displayed here. Result is displayed here. So this is one of the way where you can execute the programs in a local computer. And if you want to, if you want to execute Python scripts, there is another way that is you can use something called a Jupyter Notebook. Go to jupyter.org. We call it as jupyter.org, and you can create Python scripts here also. You can run and create Python scripts here also. We call it as Jupyter Lab. So you can run your Python programs on web browser. So go to this website, then try it on a browser. I've demonstrated that. You can execute later. Try Classic Notebook. Take a while to load. It is not launching. It will take a while because it shows that too many users are connected. Okay, leave it, no problem. We can execute in a different interface. Okay. So the basics of the Python. So the first program that will execute usually is this was custom that is created by a person called Dennis Ritchie. The first program that will usually execute is a program which displays a characters or a string on the screen. Hello world. Hello world. So this is the first program. So I've created a website where you can run these programs. I've prepared all programs that we are going to discuss. I've created a website. So please point your browser to this website. So I'll paste it in the chat box. So please point your browser to this website. Okay. So go to this website. Go to this website. Go to this website. You can click on this three lines and go to this menu, basics menu. So I've created I've prepared all the programs here. So what we're going to discuss. So you can see the first program. This is a simple editor. Here on the left, you can see a simple editor. So this is a simple editor, and here you can see the output. Here you can see the output. So what you have to do is just click this play button. Just click the play button. So you just click the play button. There is a play button here. This will run your program. This will run your program. Just click the play button. This will run your program. So in order to view the result, you can click the play button. Okay.
Hello, sir. Hello, sir. Sir, audible alla. Hello, Baburaj, sir. I'm sorry for the interruption, everybody. We'll get back to you. First, I'll only wait you. We'll definitely get back to you. Just a moment.
screen?
Yes, sir.
So please go to this website, and I have prepared all the programs for you. What you have to do is just see if you want to change some statements, you can edit here. This is actually an editor, and here you can get out. The output will be shown here on this screen, and can use this play button. This play button, you can use this play button to run the program. So the usual way, what we will do is we will use a terminal as shown in the earlier. So you can go to this terminal and you can use an editor to write a script and to execute. Everything is done here. This is a website where everything is done at the backend. So what you have to do is just type the program, just click the execute run button. So I'm trying to execute this program. So to view the result, just click the play button. So you can see output here, hello world. If you want change the output, you can change here. Python is interesting. So this is my output. Python is interesting. So that was your first program. So here, what we have done is we have used an output statement. This is called an output statement. So where we output the computer has an input. You know what the computer is composed of? It's composed of input device, output device, and CPU, memory, etc. So what it does is, what this program will does for you is, it will display this is called a set of characters. So with set of characters, we call it as a different name. So this is called a string. So a string, this is a constant string. So this is a constant string. We call it as a constant string. So it will output a set of characters or a string onto the output device. So when you put something like this, this will be displayed as it is. Something is inside a double quotes, it will be displayed. And this is the output of your program. If you want, you can change the output. Or if you want to run the same program on the terminal, so what you have to do is just type print the launch Python. Just print the statement, hello world. This is the way you output. So this is the output of your first program. Okay, and you can see something a hash and has some information here. So hash is what we call a comment. We call it as a comment, and this will not be executed. This will be completely ignored by the interpreter. So what is the use of comment? Comment is used to describe your program. So if another person is going through your program, you should be able to understand what is the meaning of each and every statement. So we can use comments. Comments will be completely ignored by the computer. It will not be executed. What you start with the statement starting with the hash character will be a comment, and it will be used to improve the readability of your program. This use of the comment. So comment, there are two ways of commenting. So this is a single line comment. If you want to write a very long comment, we call this a multi-line comment. What you do is you have to enclose that in a three chords. At the beginning you have to use a 3 chord, and also you can use a 3 chord. That is a very long comment. So let's go to the keywords. Keywords are reserved words that cannot be used as a variable, function name, or any other identifier. So these are called keywords. You cannot use these keywords as a variable name. Suppose we are trying to validate that rule. What happened? Suppose I can see that if is a keyword, or if is a keyword. So I'm trying to as I tried earlier. Suppose my a is 10. Similarly, I'm writing a variable. So variable name is not a. My variable name is if equal to 10 to okay, this number. So what you can see that there's a syntax error. Shows an error, throw an error, and you have to handle it. That means you cannot use if as any variable or this reserved word as a variable name or function name, etc. This is not possible. So that's the importance of the keyboard. To use keyboard for a keyboard inside as a reserved word or function name, it will throw an error. So that is not a valid way. Okay. So coming to the variables, what is use of variable? Variables are used for storing data or storing your program data, and you have to, if you want to process something. Suppose you are writing a program which accept two numbers, number one and number two, and it will display some equation. So a n1 plus b n2, or any equation 2n1 plus 4n2. Suppose this is your program. So this is my program, and you can see that there is an input. We call it as input. So input, there is an output. So we have to calculate this value. And usually n1, n2 are not constant. They can be different. N1 can be any value. It can be any value. It can be integer, float, anything. So we have to when you write start writing and implementing this program, what you have to use, you have to use variables. We have to use appropriate variables for storing the data. So for storing data, we will use variables. So variables are actually a memory location in the computer. It is a memory location. So we will refer the memory location by that variable name. So in Python, there is no command for declaring a variable. You can straight away declare a variable. No need to type the name of, or not name, type of that variable. We call it as a declaration. In C, we call it as a declaration. So you want to create a variable, just type the so n1 is equal to 20. That is enough. That is when you type that, the variable is automatically created for you. So variable called n1 is created for you. And there is no explicit command for declaring a variable. On the ways you assign a value to the variable, then you will create a variable. So that is one of the simplicity of your Python. So there are different way of creating variables. X equal to 10, that's a variable. Current equal to 2.54, this is another variable. This is a floating point number. Charge equal to 1 into 10 raised to minus 16, that is also a variable. So we can write 10 raised to minus 16 this way. First letter equal to A. So this is a single character A. First letter is a variable. A message equal message MST is a variable. You can see that the variable it's not a number, it's not a numeric variable. We call it as a string variable. So it stores a string called Python. Sentence, this is also a variable. So let's just demonstrate that. Okay. So sentence is this is a string. So this is a variable. We call it as a variable, string variable. This is string variable, called as a string variable. So what we have assigned is a set of characters. We have so the whole set of characters we call it as a string variable. And how to name a variable? As you see, keywords cannot be used for naming a variable, and you have to start with you can start with an underscore or dollar. That is also permitted. And the variable name can start with lower or uppercase, but it is case sensitive. Suppose you are assigning a variable a equal to 10, and you're trying to display the value of a, but I am using capital A. You can see that the capital A is not same as small a. The Python is case sensitive. So your variable a, small a, is not same as your variable capital A. So these are two different variables. And you cannot use white spaces in a Python. Variable name. Variable name cannot be start with a letter, with a number. Suppose I am creating variable 1a equal to 10. This is I am creating a variable called 1a. This is not a valid statement because you cannot start with a letter. So it will throw an syntax error, showing that the variable should not be start with a number. And spaces are not allowed. Suppose I'm creating a variable called student name equal to, okay, this is my variable. You can see that I put a space here. And what will happen is I put a space here, and this will throw an error. You can see that this will throw an error. So we cannot use a space in a variable name. So what you do is you put an underscore here, so that you can. So you can put an underscore. So this is a value variable. So what are the possible different type of variables? So these are the 10 different type of variables available in Python. So first is none type or nothing, and integer type. Then Boolean type is which can hold true or false. So we can assign a value true to a variable. True, B means equal to false. Suppose we are evaluating some conditions, then the result will be either true or false. For example, if you are evaluating A is greater than 10, so this will have two answers. Either it can be true or false. If you want to hold the result of such a statement, say greater than 10, whether A is greater than 10, it has two options. It can be greater than 10 or less than 10, or less than equal to 10. So these type of results we will store it as something called a Boolean variable. So you can hold a true or false. These are the two values of that variable. It can be either true or false. Float means floating point numbers. Another variable is complex number. So you can use floating point numbers. Nothing can create. And another type is complex numbers. So you can create complex numbers. You can create complex numbers in Python. Suppose 3 plus 4i. Sorry, 4g. So this is a complex variable called as a complex variable. A is a complex variable, 3 plus 4g. Again, it is a built-in support for complex variables. Then string, what do you call a string? String you can create like this. So a string message equal to Python. This is a string. We call this a string. And a list dictionary. These are called arrays. So if you want to handle the arrays, so you have to use these types: list, set, dictionary, tuple. And the none type is, suppose this is used for handling what you call objects. If the object is not properly initialized, the value will be nothing, or it's called a none type. So there is so these are the different way of initializing variables in Python. So you can go to that example. I have shared an example for you. Basics. So there is a function called type, which will display the type of your variable. Suppose I am entering a value 23. So you can get the type of variable by typing type of v. So it will give you the type of the variable. It is an integer type. And suppose I'm creating another variable, 1.2323. If you want to know the type of that variable, just type of b. So it's a floating point number. And suppose my another variable c is ABC. So this we can, if you want to get the type of the variable, so just type of C. It's a string variable, type is string. So if you want to get the information about the variable type, just use a type statement. You can go to the second example. I have created a variable type example. You can go to that example. Just execute this program. So I have created three variables. First one is integer, floating point number, and a string. So this will display the type of that variable, x, y, and a message. So x is the first variable, y is the second variable, ms is the third variable. Message variable is a string. So when you print the when you use this print statement, it will display the type of that variable. You can go to the play button, just press that. So first one is integer type. So this shows your first variable is an integer. Second variable is a floating point number. Third variable is a string. You can execute that. Any questions at this point? Any questions? So if you want to know the type of the variable, we can use a type function. We call it as a type function. Just type type, then your variable name. So inside that you have to put the variable name. And if you want to display on the screen, you can use a print statement. Any questions? Any questions? So if you want to convert the two types, you can use something called a type conversion. For conversion, there are imported functions. Suppose if you want to convert a string into, or if you want to convert that into any integer, you can convert an int function. So anything inside this, if you are converting, if you want to convert another type to integer, some type into integer, you can use an int function. Then if you want to convert into a string, you can use a string function. If you want to convert that number, anything into a float, you can use a float function. Okay, let's see in a simple example, conversion example. Type conversion example. This is the type conversion example. So the first variable x equal to, this is not an integer. This is not an integer. X equal to single quote 10 is not an integer. This is actually what do you call it? A string. This is not a number. So if you put inside a single quote or double quote, it's not a number. It's a string. It is not a string. It's not a number. It's a string. So this, if you want to convert that into a number, you have to use an explicit function called int. If you want to convert that into an integer, you have to use an explicit function called integer. And I have created first I created a string. So I created a string here. Then I have printed the type of that string. Then I have converted that into integer, string, and floating point number. Let's see that on the terminal. Suppose I'm typing something like this: x equal to 1 0. So this is not a string. So when I type, you can display the type of that variable. It's not a string. So this is a number. It's not a number. It's a string. So you can understand the differences. So x equal to single quote 1 0, it's a string. X equal to 1 0, it's an integer. Suppose I put x equal to 1 0, and I want to convert that into a number. What you can do is I can use some int in bracket. You can put x. So let's see what is the type of y. The y is an integer. You can see this way you can convert. So to convert numbers into an appropriate format, you can use conversion functions like int, str, float, etc. These are the very important functions for converting one type to another. So we'll use this in input-output statements. So we want to accept a number from the keyboard. Usually, that statement that is used for reading something from the keyboard is an input statement. We call it as an input statement. And when you use an input statement, what you're getting is the type of the variable you're getting is a string. And if you want to use it as a number, you have to convert. You have to use an appropriate conversion function. Let's see how to read a number from the keyboard. So let's see input-output statements. So to read something, you have to use something called input function. So inside the input function, we can provide some string. So enter the value of x. So this will be displayed on the screen. This is called a prompt. We call it as a prompt. It's called a prompt. So this will be displayed on the screen. So this will be displayed on the screen. And what you type on the keyboard will be stored in the variable x. Let's see. So I'm executing that. So it is asking for a value for x. I'm typing value 334. I'm pressing enter. The value will be stored in x. Okay, sorry, stored in x. Stored in x. So I'm entering the value 34. So that value will be stored in x. Okay. But it is displaying as 34. Let's see the type of that variable. Type of that variable. It's not an integer. It is an it's an integer. Okay, I'm trying to enter the value. Type of x. Okay, it is accepting as integer. Suppose we want to suppose I'm typing some other value 1.34. The type of x is float. So this version automatically type convert. The previous version was not. This is not the way. What you have to use, you have to use appropriate type conversion functions. So in order to read something from the keyboard, you can use an input statement. So inside that input statement, you have to use something called a prompt, which will show you, which will display a message that you are accepting something from the keyboard. And you can assign that value into what you're cutting the from the keyboard will be assigned to a variable. And you have to use an appropriate conversion function. If you want to use it as an integer, you have to use an appropriate type conversion function, integer or float, etc. Suppose we want to convert that into an integer. Suppose I'm trying to execute the statement again. So x equal to input, enter value for x. Okay. So I'm inputting a value for x. I'm typing the value of x type of. So it's automatically convert. This was not the case. Initially, the previous version was not able to convert that, but this version does it. It was not able to convert that into integer. It was actually we have to use an appropriate function. Here it is convert automatically. So I put an example on the website. You can go to that. You can execute that example. Input statement. So here in this example, we can see that I have used a conversion function. We want to accept an integer. You have to use an appropriate function. We want to accept a floating point number. You have to use an appropriate function along with your input statement. Along with the input statement, you have to use an appropriate conversion function. If you want to use enter an integer, you have to use an appropriate function. So this is an example which accepts a number, an integer, a floating point number from the keyboard. Let's execute that. So enter a string. It is asking for a string. So you can enter. You can click here. Python my string. We can enter an integer if you want to process that integer. Then floating point number. My floating point number is this. It will display everything. Python. This is the print statement. Output of the print statement. Python 300 and 234 point whatever it is. So this is the way you input a number, a string, and integer to the Python program. Any questions about input statement? So there are two statements. If you want to read something from the keyboard, you can use an input statement. If you want to print something on the screen, you can use the print statement. So print something on the screen. If you want to print something on the monitor, you can use print statement. And if you want something from the keyboard, you can use input statement. If you want to read from the keyboard, if you want to display on the screen, you can use output statement. This is not an output statement. This is an input statement. Input statement is input itself, and output statement is print. Okay, so any questions at this point? Hope you understood the example. Now we want to output multiple values on the using the same print statement. Suppose I am creating three variables. My values x equal to 10, y equal to 20, 24, and z equal to 89. And you can print it something like this: print x comma y comma z. This is one way you can print it, x comma y comma z. And we want to display using an appropriate format. We call it as formatting. Format means, suppose you are filling a form, then you can see that there will be some field name, age, etc. Name, age. Then you have DOB, etc. This is a format. So that means your name should be, you have to write name here, and you have to put your age here, and your date of birth should be somewhere here. This is a format. So this is a field name, and this is a value of that, something like that. We want to display that in this format. We call this a formatting. So for displaying information in a proper format, we can use a what you call a formatting string. So this is the way: x equal to percentage d. So percentage d is your value of the variable, x equal to y equal to percentage d, percentage d, z equal to comma z equal to percentage d. And you have to put a percentage here. Sorry. And you have to put a bracket here. Okay. So this is a way. There is a string here. There is a string. There is a string here. You can see a string. Then there is a percentage. There is these are the set of variables. So what will happen is the x will be displayed as it is, and the value of x will go here. So as you see in an example, this is your this is where you have to put your name. So percentage d indicates that the value of x should be, you have to put the value of x here. This means the value of y you have to put here. This means value of z you have to put here. So let's execute that statement. So you can see it displayed in a different way. The value of x. X means this x will be this x is displayed here. X and equal to, y and equal to, z and equal to, and percentage d will be replaced by an appropriate value. And percentage d means we are displaying a decimal number, decimal. And if you want to display a floating point number, suppose my y is not a decimal, I'm displaying as I'm assigning a floating point number, 3.45, and you have to in order to display a floating point number, you have to put a percentage f. F means you are displaying a floating point number. And suppose my z is not a number, it's suppose it's a string. It's a string. For creating string, you can put either double quotes, or you can put set of characters inside double quotes or single quotes. Both will work. So my set is not a number; it's a string. So you have to replace percentage d by percentage s. So this will display your result in a beautiful format. So x equal to 10, y equal to 3.5, z equal to 510. So this is more meaningful. So this is the way we format the outputs for print statement. You see, there are another way you can execute in a different way also. I've put an example for that. You can execute that output statement. So go to those example. So this is the first way. If you want, you can edit that. Actually, the first variable is a number, floating. But this is an integer number. This is a floating point number, and this is a string. So there are three different type of variables. And one way is you can put it like this, or if you want, there another way you can in this case this opening and closing braces will be replaced by the value of x, y, z. Here this means ordered. So 0 means this is a 0. And if you want to change the order, you can change to the order of the variables. If you want to the value set we want to put here, you can replace by 2 or 3, etc. So another way is called we are using plus operator. This is called string concatenation. That means we are combining strings. So we'll see that later. So that is about output statement. any questions? You can execute that program. You can execute that program. See the output. You can see the observe the output. So this is a way to print the statement. If you won't have multiple variables, what you can do is you can separate by comma. If you want to display 3 values, you can display it by print x comma y comma z. This is one way, and second way is by using an appropriate format. This is one way you want to display multiple values on the screen. So any questions at this point? Any questions?
Sir, we have
Yes.
we have question. Can you please explain the format method?
So you want to so you need to explain it once again, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So formatting, when we want to do a formatting is, suppose we want to display multiple variables on the screen. Suppose we want to display multiple variables on the screen. One way is you can put it like this: print x comma y comma z. This will display the values of x, y, z on the screen like this. And if you want to provide more information to the user, you can use an appropriate format. And the one way is we can use something called a formatting string, something like this. If you want to display that this is the value of x, and this is the value of y, and this is the value of z, something like this. So here in my example, the x is a decimal or it's an integer value. So this is called a formatting character. Percentage d means it is a decimal number. Percentage f means it's a floating point number. Percentage s means it's a string. So what will happen when you try to execute this program is, what will happen is, or this statement, what will happen is that this percentage d, the formatting characters will be replaced by the corresponding values of the variable. So x, this will be percentage d will be replaced by the value of x, and percentage f will be replaced with the value of y, and percentage g will be replaced with the value of percentage s will be replaced by the value of z. This is the output. So this is a more meaningful way of outputting the result of a Python program. So you can see, you can execute this example. So you can modify if you want you can modify it. You can modify the value of x. You can modify this program. See what happens. You can see what happens. So this is another way. This is called, we are combining strings. We will see that. We'll come back to that. Okay. So I think you understood the method. Okay. Coming to the operators. See, these are the basic arithmetic operators in Python: addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. There are 2 types of divisions. One is floating point division. Suppose we are dividing 5 by 2, it will be 2.5. There is another division called integer division. That means the floating point numbers, the floating point part of the result will be ignored. So 5 by 2 will not be 2.5. It will be 5 by 2. We have to use 2 divide by symbols. 5 by 2 will be 2. I will illustrate that. Okay. So 5 by 2. So 5 by 2 is 2.5. It's 2. So the numbers are actually. So we have to convert that into the 5 2. They're taken as integers. So 5 by 2 will be 2. So if you 5.0 is a floating point number. So it's a 2.8. So it will be 2.5. And 5 divided by 2, that means it will give you the integer part only. And there is a remainder after division. So if you're dividing one number by so 5 divided by 2, the result will be 2. The quotient will be 2, and remainder will be 1. So this will give you the information about the remainder. Suppose I am dividing 6 by 2, the remainder will be the remainder will be 0. And there is an exponent. So we want to find exponent. Suppose you are having a variable x equal to 2. If you want to find x raised to 8, x raised to 8, you can compute it like this: x raised to 8, 256. And yes, this is a very unique to Python, exponentiation. So if you want to find the exponent of any variable, you can use this. This is some examples are provided here. You can go to the example programs. Okay, operators. I have examples. I have put examples here. Arithmetic operators. So you can go to this example, arithmetic operators. You can execute that. Okay, this is the result. Actually, value of x is 20 and y is 3. This is x plus y. I put x plus y, x plus y, x minus y, x raised to y. So x into y, x divided by y, x modulus y. Equal is a modulus, that means remainder after division. X raised to y, x integer division y. These are the results. So you can execute this program. Okay. So assignment operators. These are the operators which are used to put a value for a variable. Suppose you are typing something x equal to 5. This means you are assigning a value 5 to the variable x. So these type of statements are called assignment statements. So there are assignment statements, and along with assignment, you can have now another operator also, x equal to x plus 3. This is called a, this means you take the previous value of x, add 3 to it, and this is a new value. So the new value of x equal to the previous value of x plus 3. This is called an assignment. This is an assignment as well as an increment statement. And this statement you can write it as x plus equal to 3. X plus equal to 3. This means x equal to x plus 3. So you suppose your value of x is 20, and you're executing x equal to x plus 3. What will happen is the previous value of x is 20, that is taken. 20 plus 3 is computed, 23, and that value is assigned to x. So x will become 23. X will become 23 now. So we want to illustrate. Okay, my x is 20, and x equal to x plus 3. This will give you the value of x as 23, and you can do this in a different way. I'm resetting the value of x to 20, and I can do it in a different way, x plus equal to 20. This will give you the same answer. Sorry, x plus equal to, no, it is not 20. So you have to put something like this, x equal to 20, x plus equal to 3. That is the way. X equal to x plus 3. So answer will be 23. So x equal to x plus 3. This you can write it as x plus equal to 3. And my computer is having some issue.
Yes, sir.
We can have a short break. We'll continue after 5 minutes. Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You're audible. So we can start now. We can resume. We are discussing the operators, different type of operators available in Python. Am I audible? Yes, sir. You're audible.
Okay. Yeah. So the first type is arithmetic operators: addition, subtraction, multiplication, etc. These are used for if you want to perform an arithmetic operation inside a Python program. We can use these operators. So here, the interesting one is very interesting, very peculiar to Python is the exponentiation. So we can directly find the exponent of a given number, and these are assignment operators. So assignment operators are used to assign a value to a variable. So when you create a variable, you are assigning a value to the variable. So that is, suppose you are having x equal to 3. This is an assignment operator. Sorry. This assignment operator. Suppose you're creating a variable, something like this, x equal to 5. You're assigning a value to the variable using an assignment operator. And along with assignment, you can do an arithmetic operation.
So that is you can combine arithmetic operation and assignment operation. So this is the way. Here, suppose you are doing some x equal to x plus 5. So this means your previous value of x should be added with the value of 5, and that new value should be stored in the variable x. This is called an assignment and increment operation. And this you can write in a short form x plus equal to 5. These are the other examples where you can combine an operator with assignment operator. These equivalent operators are shown here, and these are very we'll discuss this and operator, etc. The coming slides. You see only this portion. I have put an example for you on the website. You can go to that website and try an example. Assignment operators. Different assignment operators. So I have used two statements here. You can see that I put a semicolon here. This means, so I am resetting the value of variable to 5. Every time I am resetting the value of variable to 5. Otherwise, if I execute x plus equal to 3 again, execute x minus equal to 3, then you're changing the value of the variable. So here I'm resetting the value of the variable to 5 every time I'm resetting the variable, and you can see that I have written two statements on the same line. If you want to write this two statements on the same line. So to differentiate that, you can put a semicolon here. I have put a semicolon here. The results are shown here. You can see what happens when the value of x equal to 5, and these statements are executed. Okay, so these are the results. X plus equal to 3. Result of x plus equal to 3 is the value. Initial value of x is 5. That is, initial value of x is 5. We are subtracting 3. That means 2. Then x into 3. So value of x is 5. So we are multiplying with 3. That means this is the result. X divided by 3. Similarly, all the results you can see. Forget about this. And this we will discuss later. X divided by 3. X raised to 3, etc. X raised to 3. This is actually 5 raised to 3. Okay, yeah, coming to the next set of operators. So something what we call as a comparison operator. We want to compare two numbers, so that we can use this comparison operators. So these are the comparison operators. So you can see that first one is equal to comparison. So you can differentiate what do you mean by x equal to 5 and x equal to 5. So this first operator, suppose here actually we are assigning. This is assignment operation, assignment, and this is not assignment. You can see the presence of two equal to operator. This is what you call the comparison operator. We are checking whether x is equal to 5 or not. So let's see example. Let's see example determinant. So x equal to 5 and x equal to 5. X equal to 5. This is an assignment operator. Suppose I am putting x equal to 5. That means this gives a result that true. That means it checks whether the value of x is equal to 5 or not. X is equal to 5 or not. So what is the value? Whether it's true or false. It will give you that. If this is the value of x equal to 2, that means it will give it true. If value of x is not equal to 5, then it will give you the value false. Suppose x equal to 7. I'm checking x equal to 5. result will be false. That means x is not equal to 5. That is the conclusion. So these are what we call a Boolean variables. These are Boolean variables, and I can assign value that to a variable. So this will be confusing. So c equal to x equal to 5. What is the meaning of the statement? That means, so we are first we are computing the value x equal to 5. This can be two possibilities. Either it can be true or false, and that value will be stored in the variable c. So c will hold the condition whether is x equal to 5 or x equal to 5 or not. If x is in this case x is not equal to 5, therefore the result will be false. So there are other way of comparison. So not equal to, so just listen, this is not equal to comparison, not equal to comparison, and Python 2 uses a different not equal to comparison operator. So this is what I told you, the backward compatibility problem. Python 2 uses greater than symbols. These are the symbols that is used for, suppose we want to compare that x is not equal to 5, but here this is a way, x not equal to 5. Then greater than, less than, greater than equal to, less than equal to, etc. I put some examples here. You can go through the program. Yes, here comparison operators. Yes, this one. I have value of x is 20, y is 3, and these are the results of the these operations. X equal to y, x not equal. These are the results. You can go through the results and can verify whether it's showing correctly or not. So these are called conditional comparison operators. So it will give you the information as a true or false. Logical operator, and we want to combine two comparison operators. We can use something called a logical operator. These are simple statements. If we want to combine two statements, you can usually use AND statements. If you want to combine two conditions, then you can use something called an AND statement. If you want to combine two statements, that the result will be, if either one of the condition is true, then the result will be true. So we can use something called an OR statement, AND statement, OR statement, and if you want to invert some condition, we can use a NOT statement. So these are the logically called as a logical operator. It changes the logic of the. So if you want to combine two comparison operators, you can use a logical or combine two, or we can, if you want to convert or change the condition, then you can use a inversion operator. So AND, NOT, or NOT, etc. Here x is less than 5, x is less than 10. So if AND means if this condition is true and this condition is also true, this will result you give you the result as if both conditions are true, then result will be true. If any of the condition is false, result will be false. That is the use of AND statement. And OR means if any of the condition is true. Suppose any of the condition is true. This can be anyone. The result will be true. And NOT means if any of the condition is true, so NOT of that is false. So let's illustrate. So true and true, that is true. True and false, that is false. True and if any of the conditions is true, both conditions are true, then the result will be true. If any of the condition is false, the result will be false. True or false, this will give you the result as true. If any of the condition is true, the result is true. And not true means false. Not false is true. So we are inverting the conditions. And you can combine something else. Instead of true, you can combine x less than 5 and x greater than 5, etc. You can combine statement like this, x greater than 20, etc. You can combine it like this. This also can combine in saying OR statement also. You want to combine the results, you You can invert the result like not statement. Okay. So this is the use of logical statements. So this is used to combine statements, or if you want to reverse a result, you can use a not operation. And something called an identity operator. Python has something called an identity operator, which checks whether the variable holds the same object. X is y, X is not y. X is y, X is not y. Whether the Python variable holds the same object. Suppose X equal to 2, y equal to 2, then X is y. X is y will give you true. That means X and Y holds the same object. Here, it is not actually comparing using equal to or equal. It's not comparing by equal to. This is different from equal to comparison. So this checks whether it holds the same object. This is different. Suppose X is holding an object 2, Y is also holding the same object 2. Then the result will be X equal to Y is true. This is different from X equal to 1. So here we are checking that both variables are referring to the same object. So if you want to know what is we want to know some information about the object, we can use something called an ID function. ID of X will give you the ID of that variable. ID of Y. You can see that ID of X is equal to ID of Y. That means both variables are now holding the same object, and that's why IDs are same. So identity operator will check whether the variables are holding the same object or not. So you can run that example. It's logical operator. You can run this example. X equal to 5, Y equal to 9. X is less than 5 and X is less than 10. So it checks whether, so what is the result of this variable, X less than 5 and X less than 10. The value is X is 5. So we are checking 5 is less than 5 and 5 is less than 10. 5 is less than 5 is false and 5 is less than 10. That is true. But so false and true, the result will be false. Similarly, actually I have to put in, this is not and, this is or actually. So X less than 5 or X less than 10. So X is equal to, so this will be false or true. The result will be true. And this condition is inverted here. You can verify the results by pressing the play button. Just click the result. Just see the result. Just click the play button. So we are combining the conditions, true or false conditions, by using and. This should be or. This should be or. You can change to or. And identity operator. So here X and Y holds the same object, X equal to 2 and Y equal to 2. I'm checking X equal to Y and X not Y. So first one will give you X is Y true, and this will give you X is Y false. Here the ID is different. This is a different Python environment, so it will give you some information like this. This is not the correct way. So when you have a Python interpreter, this will give you correct information like this. So IDs of X and IDs of Y, these are the values. So ID will give you some information about the object that the variable is holding now. Any questions at this point? Any questions? Okay. Next is membership operator. This is associated with a set of numbers, not a single number, set of numbers. Suppose we want to create a set of numbers. Suppose we want to create a set of numbers, something like this, a set of numbers 1, 2, 3, etc. So that I can create a variable which holds a set of numbers, something like this, 1, 2, 3. So here X is a variable, not a single variable. It holds a set of numbers. And if you want to check the presence of a number on this set, you can use a membership operator. There are two type of membership operator. There is one is in and not in, not in. So in means whether 2 in X. That means whether 2 is present in the set X or set of numbers X or not. 2 in X means whether 2 is not there in X. We're checking whether 2 in X. So this will give you a Boolean answer whether true or false. So 2 in X is true because 2 is present in X, therefore the result will be true. We can check whether 5 in X, 4 in X. 4 is not present in X, therefore it will give you false. And 2 not in X, 2, whether a 2 is not present in X, the result will be, because 2 is present in X, this will be a false statement. So there is a use of membership operator. You can execute this program. This is a membership operator. So I'm creating a set of numbers 2, 4, 6, 8. So here I've created a set of numbers 2, 4, 6, 8. So these are the set of numbers 2, 4, 6, 8. I'm checking whether y is 2, and z is 3. Y in X means this is my X. So y, the value of y is 2. So whether 2 is present in X or not. We're checking whether 2 is present in X or not. And 3 is not in X. So we're checking whether 3 is not in this number. So you can execute that program to see the result. Y in X is 2 because y is present in X. The value of 2 is present in X. And 3 is not present in X. Therefore, it will give you a false statement. Set is not in X. That means 3 is not in that set. Therefore, it give you a statement true. Another thing is another operator in Python is called as a bitwise operator. So we know that every decimal number, when in a computer, ultimately computer is going to deal with the binary numbers. So we have ones and zeros. Every decimal number that we are processing will be converted into a binary number in a computer. So there are some operations which you can perform on a binary on a binary format of your number. That's called a bitwise operator. So this is AND, OR, XOR, NOT, etc. This is a shifting operator. This is a right shift, left shift operators. So suppose we have a binary number 1010. This is a binary number, and you have another binary number. This is 1100. You can perform that AND operation, OR operation, XOR operation, etc. The result of the operation you can get it by suppose your number is X and Y. If you want to perform an bitwise, we are converting that into binary number, binary equivalent of the decimal number, and we are performing the bitwise operation here. So Python has a support for that. I think all of you know how to perform binary computations. So suppose you have a binary number 1 and 1 is 1 and, or if any of the number is 1, result will be 1. If any of the number is 0, the result will be 0 for an AND operation. For an OR operation, so if any of the number is 1, the result will be 1. For XOR operation, if any of the number is, if you performing binary, if any of the number is if one number is 0 and other number is 1, this combination, of course, result will be 1. NOT means we are inverting the bits. This means we are shifting the binary sequence. Suppose we have a binary sequence something like this, and you can shift it to the right, or 10101, or we can right shift, or we can left shift the number. So when you write the number will be divided by 2. When you left shift the number will be multiplied by 2. So that operation you can perform, and using this Python operators, binary operators. I put an example here. You can execute that. So this is the binary. If you want to see the binary number of binary equivalent of a decimal number, suppose your decimal number is 5, and if you want to see the binary equivalent of the number, then you can use the binary function. Binary of 5 will give you the binary equivalent. So 0b means this is a binary number, indicates that this is a binary number. You can see that this is a string. This is not a number. This is a string, and 101 is the binary equivalent of that number 5. And if you know the AND operator, etc., these operators, so this will give you the result. And I have put all the results in binary format. The output will be in the binary format. I converted all the results into binary. We can later you can go through it. You can go through it on the results of the binary operations. Okay, this is about the operators. We'll go to the decision making. Any questions at this point? Any questions? Any questions?
All clear, sir.
Okay. Shall I continue? Okay. Okay, decision making. Here, what we have seen so far is we are executing statement by statement. So our program is something like this. So first statement, second statement, then we execute the fourth statement, etc. Suppose we want to take a decision at some point. This is called the flow of the statement. And suppose at this point we want to have a two ways. So we have to take a decision whether we have to go for that or this. Then we have to use something called a decision, or which changes the flow of execution. So the flow will be deviate. So there are two deviations from this point. So based on some conditions. So if the condition is true, we'll go to this set of statements. The condition is false, we'll go to another set of statements. This is called a particular decision making, or there are some loops, etc. We are repeating the same statements also. Decision making. So for decision making, so there are statements which supports decision making. So first is called if statement. If you have some conditions also, you have to put a condition. Then you have to put a what you call a colon here. A test expression, we have to put a colon here. And another important thing is we know the C programming. So this so if some condition, then we'll put the statements inside the if statement that we group it by opening and closing brace. So this is opening brace as a closing brace. This is the usual way. In Python, it's done by something called indentation. That means the Python interpreter will calculate the spaces after this if statement. You have to put an appropriate indentation. The space after this. This is a one level of indentation. So you have to go to the next level. So this is the first level of indentation. You have to go to the next level to say that these are the statements. These are the statements under your if if statement. So this, for example, you can see there is an indentation here. There's a different indentation level here. This means for if statement, if the condition is true, suppose this condition is true, then this statement will be executed. So if the condition is true, if this condition is true, this statement will be executed. We will illustrate that. So suppose my x is equal to 5, and if x greater than 5, so you can check whether x is greater than 5 or x is less than 2. So you have to put a semicolon here. Then after that, you can see that this is an editor which supports Python programming. You can see that automatically it comes here. That means we are using a different indentation level to indicate that this is one of the statement. This is which is part of your if statement. Print the value of x is less than 2. So this is the way we write if statement, if statement, if statements. So the important thing is you have to put a colon here, and you have to start with the next indentation level. The first statement is x equal to 5. So I'm checking whether the value of x is less than or less than 2 or not. You can put another statement. So this y equal to 15. This is a part of if statement. If you go to the next level, is z equal to 34. This is not belongs to the. So these two statements are part of the if statement. These two statements are part of this if statement. So you can see the indentation level. So this is the thing, as I told you, that this is code readability. So this supports code readability. So there are built-in ingredients to support the code readability. So this is a different indentation level. So next indentation level is you have to put indentation indicates that these are the statements which come under the if statement. This is not belongs to the if statement. So if the condition is true, this condition is true, these two statements will be executed. So let's try to execute that statement. So execute. The result is x is not less than 2, nothing will happen. So you can change inequality. X is greater than 2 because x is 5. So this will be executed. The value of x is less than 2. You can see that the result is displayed here. That is the if statement, and you can have something called else. The condition is true, this statements will be executed, and the condition is false, this statement will be executed. This is called the if and else combination. If else combination. So you can see else also there is a semicolon and there is indentation. So you have to put an indentation, next level of indentation. Indicates that statements are inside this else statement. So if x is greater than 2, the value is positive. This means if x is greater than 0, it will display that value is positive. If x is less, this condition is false. If this condition is true, this will be executed. If the condition is false, then this one will be executed. So I can illustrate that. So if x is greater than 0, we can print the value is greater than, value is positive, right? Value is positive. Else we can see value is 0 or negative. So this is my program. The value is positive, the value is 0 or negative. So my value of x is 5. So this condition will become true. This condition will become true, and it will display this value. So I'm executing that. So the value is positive. That's the result. Value is positive. If I change to negative 5, you can see the result is different. The values of x is 0 or negative. So you can change it to 0. Then this condition is false. So it will go to the statement under the else statement. So executing that, the values x is 0 or negative. And if you want to have a set of else statement, we can use if else if. This is called the if else if ladder. If then else if, we can have multiple conditions, first condition, second condition, etc. Suppose this is helpful. For example, if you are checking the grade of a student, suppose you got a mark, a value of mark in some subject, and if you want to compute the grade, and if the mark is greater than 90%, so grade will be something. So if otherwise you have to check the whether it is greater than 80, etc. Then you can create a if else if ladder, something like this. So if suppose the mark is m, if it is greater than 90, you can go to some statement else. You have to check mark about 80%. You can do something. Else if you can mark is 70, you can put the grade like that. So the specialty of this else if statement is that if any of the condition is true, you don't need to look for the other statements. If mark is greater than 80, you can ignore other statements. If mark is greater than 90, you can immediately say that this is a grade. You don't have to check the preceding statements. So that is a specialty of if-else statements. If one of the condition is true, then it will come to the it will display the execute that statement under that else if statement, and it will go to the next statement under the if-else if ladder. So if suppose this condition is false, it will say the next condition. If this is true, it will continue with the statement under the if-else if ladder. If any of the condition is true. If any of the condition is false, then it will go to the else statement. So this is an improved way of our program. So here we are checking whether positive, negative, or zero. So this is example using if-else if we call this a if-else if ladder. So I'm changing else for else. If x greater than 0, you can change to x is less than 0. So this is my improved program. X is positive. If x is less than 0, you can type as negative. Then if the value of x is, if both conditions are false, then you can display the value of 0. This is an improved program. So here, any of this condition will be true. So if you go this way, x can be positive, negative, or 0. If it is not negative and positive, the only cases can be 0. Suppose I'm executing the program. Some positive is with positive value. You can see the value of x is positive. You can change to negative. X is negative, and you can change to 0. So this is called a if-else if ladder, and I have put some examples there. You can go to the Python programming, then you can go to the decision making, and go to if-else if statement. Here I put a program which accepts a number from the keyboard, and it will say that number is positive, negative, or 0. So I'm executing that program. It will ask for a number. You can put a number -7. My number is -7. 7 is negative. It will say 7 is negative. You can execute the program again, and you can print a positive value 6. So you give you number is positive. You can check for 0 condition, put 0 also. So I'm putting a 0 here. So what happens? 0 is 0. So this is a if-else if ladder. You can something called that. This is called a nested statement. You can have a if inside if, inside if. There is a if statement. Inside that you can have another if statement. This is called a nested if statement. Nested if, and you can see the indentation level. This indentation level gives you that this if statement is inside this main if statement, and you can see a next level of indentation. That means this print 0 statement is inside this if statement. So this is called a nested if statement. We can have if else statement, a nested if else if statement also. This is called a if statement inside another if statement. This is called a nested if statement. I have some examples for you. You can go to this program, decision making program here. If true. So what is the meaning of if true? If expects a condition, it's a Boolean expression. It can be true or false. It can be true or false. So if this expects a condition, so you can put a if true. That's a valid if statement. So you can print that some rice is this is a valid statement. So this will execute unconditionally because we have put a true here. That means it will be always executed. Okay, so the output is sun rises in the east. If 2 is equal to 2, we are checking whether 2 is equal to 2. That means this will be, this is always true. Cat equal to dog. So we are checking whether the cat is equal to dog because these two things are different. This will give you a different results. You can check the output of this program. I have a nested if statement also here. You can check the output. Any questions? Any questions? Anega, how much time we left? We have
It's actually 8 o'clock, so it's like 3 minutes.
that means we can stop it. Stop
Okay, sir.
stop the session now.
Okay, sir.
Okay, so I'm not able to cover all the topics because to take a 1 more hour to cover the rest of the topic. If you have any questions, you can ask now. Okay, so we can stop the session now.
So thank you, sir.
Excuse me, sir, there is a doubt in the chat box.
Yes, sir. There is a doubt in the chat box. Multiple inputs എങ്ങനെ കൊടുക്കും same line?
മൾട്ടിപ്പിൾ ഇൻപുട്സ് സെയിം ലൈനിൽ കൊടുക്കാൻ പറ്റില്ല. ഓരോ ഇൻപുട്ടായിട്ട് ആക്സെപ്റ്റ് ചെയ്തിട്ട് യു ടു സ്റ്റോർ ഇൻ ആരേ. അങ്ങനെയാണ് സാധാരണ ചെയ്യാം. മൾട്ടിപ്പിൾ ഇൻപുട്സ് കൊടുക്കാൻ പറ്റില്ല. You have to accept one by one. So then you have to use a for loop. If you want to accept multiple numbers, you can use some looping statement. You can repeat the input statement again and again by putting it inside a loop. നിങ്ങൾക്ക് മനസ്സിലായെന്ന് തോന്നുന്നു. കാര്യങ്ങളൊക്കെ മനസ്സിലായിട്ടുണ്ടോ? ഞാനത് കവർ ചെയ്യാൻ വേണ്ടിയിട്ട് ആദ്യം സ്പീഡ് പോയി, പക്ഷെ എനിക്കത് കവർ ചെയ്യാൻ പറ്റിയില്ല. 2 മണിക്കൂർ പോരാ. അറ്റ്ലീസ്റ്റ് we need 3 hours to complete all the topics. എന്തെങ്കിലും ചോദിക്കാനുണ്ടെങ്കിൽ ചോദിച്ചോളൂ. ഇനി എന്തെങ്കിലും you have any questions you can ask right now. Okay, Anaga, continue.
If you have any questions, you can ask in the chat box.
So this was a very basic introduction to Python. I have not covered all the basics.
Sir, we have a question. Will integer divisions always produce a floating point value?
No, it will ignore the floating point value.
And we have one more question, sir. Can't we take x, y, z equal to input, sir? Could you please use the chat box?
So you can try it, but so you can put like this. I think you can read like this, but okay. This is a different way. So you are reading as a iteratable object. So this is okay. This is possible. So integer division will always give you a integer number. So if you're dividing numbers, computing the numbers by integer division, that will always give you integer results. Always give you integer results. Okay. It will ignore the floating point part. And this is all this you can do, but you have to understand what is the meaning of this statement x comma y comma z to understand to accept numbers using numbers like this. So this is a different way. So what we are reading as a iteratable object. So I haven't covered the topic. That's why I said like this. So you can put inside a loop, or you can if you want to have a very large number of numbers, then you have to put inside a loop. And if you have a small set of numbers, you can read it like this. But this is a different way. You are actually returning multiple values from this input statement. This is input function. We call it as a function. If you want to explode something, different way of assigning a value, suppose you can do something like this. So this is the way. So x, y equal to, so x will be 2, y equal to 3. So to understand that, we have to have a basics of arrays. So I haven't introduced arrays to you. So if you know if you have the concept of arrays, then you can understand this meaning of the statement. Okay. So I have introduced arrays to understand what is the meaning of this statement. Okay. Any questions?
I think there are no more questions left. So we wind up the session. So thank you all for joining. Special thanks to Dr. Baburat sir for taking time of his busy schedule to join us here today to give us such a wonderful and informative session. Hope it was fruitful for everyone. For those who missed the session due to network problems, recording of the session will be uploaded in the Google Classroom. Also, for any queries, please fill the feedback form, which is also uploaded in the Google Classroom. Also, it is provided in the chat box. Happy learning, and see you all tomorrow for our day 2 session on Python packages, same time. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you all.